Okay, let's go ahead and get the steps down as to what we'll be doing to put an exposed end tread, to install an exposed end tread. The first thing we would need to do is, if we're going to be adding any cleat, as you can see, this step, it already overhangs, so we're not going to be adding a cleat there. But as you can see on the drywall side, we don't have a cleat, so we're going to be adding a cleat here. Now, if you want this piece to be structural, I would recommend cutting out the drywall here and adding your cleat, structurally all the way out there, gluing it with wood glue and adding screws or fasteners. You can use crown staples, but that glue is going to be the key to making that structural, because this isn't going to be a structural installation. We're not concerned about this edge here being structural. We're just going to install this cleat right out to the end here, which will facilitate this install. So I'm just going to use a couple of crown staples and put that in place, in the position there. And that's going to be my interior snug face right there. So that's where I would take my measurement from, or my template. So in this case, this is the template I'm using. So I'll need to make these adjustments. However your plan is to capture this angle with a template, you can, there's lots of different versions of templates. You can buy one of these, or there's a different type. We'll actually have a one that we designed that we think is quite superior, that we'll be releasing soon. But then this end, we want to be able to capture this exact angle. So that when there's a skirt board here, we'll say, so we want to make sure we capture whatever that angle is. We want to capture that angle and cope it right to that finish. So if there's a skirt board here or a wall, we want to get this angle just right against that wall. And now that we've got all these tightened up, and that's our correct angle there, we're gonna come down to our tread here, and then we need to account for the thickness of the material, which is why I'm gonna do like this. And I like to just set it back just a tiny bit from that, so that I can make sure my end can snug in tight. So I'm just going to set it back about 3/32, maybe not quite a 1/16 of an inch, and that's where I'm going to mark it. So then I'm going to mark here and make this cut, which will capture this angle. And then once I've got that end cut, then I want to work on getting my bottom ends here captured. So this lip here and this lip here, generally these are going to come a little bit wide so that you can do any coping or cut any coping you need to do against this finished surface. So at this point, that's what we would do. We'd slide this in place, and we would check here, make sure if there's a gap there at all, that we do any coping that needs to be done by even sanding, or using, say, a multi-tool like that to make any adjustments. In a lot of cases, you're going to need to cut this back, and this depth will have been cut, so you may need to cut here and around, back to this front surface here, so that you can scoot this back tight enough to get this face against the tread. And this, this piece here would then, slide back. So with these being, as we're showing them as an example, this is the way they install. And then the tread, or the finish piece, the riser would go over the top of these, so that would create that reveal. Like I say, in some cases, that reveal is going to need to sit back, onto this drywall a little bit, so that notch may need to be cut. But again, you want this cleat snug against this back surface. And so once we dry fit it, if that's the fit we like, we're going to use that. Again, this face as well. You want this face snug against that inside surface. And a way to check that is you can take your tape measure, you check the depth of this, and then measure this from the inside, checking the depth of that, and that'll let you know you've got that set up correctly. And after you do your dry fit and you're good to go, then you want to add glue on the inside these corners. A good generous bead of glue. What I recommend, makes it easy to install, is in these 28-ounce tubes. This is the PL Premium 3X. There's lots of different types of PL Premium, so you want to make sure you get the 3X. If you use a different brand and you want to know if it'll work or not, you just want to check the materials that that it's rated for. As you see here, it's rated for vinyl and PVC, and that's what you're looking for, is a plastics rating that that it's a pressure sensitive urethane, floor glue type of, or a glue that's a floor glue type of glue. So like I say, these 28-ounce tubes work great, and you just use that to fill up the top and bottom corner, and then put that into position. If you've got any flexing or anything like that you want to make sure you get a good bond and that it holds in position, you could use like a pin nailer or something. Like in this case, because we're going to have a riser that's going to sit over the top of this, just where that riser is going to sit is where I would shoot my pin nails, so that they would be hidden.